Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Logic Medico. Today's interesting topic is layers of the eyeball, the anatomy and physiology of the layers of the eyeball. Without much delay, we'll go into the layers of the eyeball. Before that, I'll just want to highlight whenever you open your eyelids, what we can exactly see in this area. This white color of the eyeball you can see now, that's called the sclera of the eyeball. This transparent covering is there, you can see the flash of light here. This transparent covering is called the cornea of the eyeball. This pigmented layer is there na? This pigmented layer like a circular diaphragm with an opening. This is called iris diaphragm. Iris diaphragm. This opening is called as pupil. Pupil. Okay. This iris can constrict. I mean, it can make this pupil become narrow like this. Okay, because it has got constrictor pupil, and it can dilate the pupil. Pupil can become big like this. Dilator pupil. Behind this there is a lens, biconvex lens. Okay, and the lens is transparent, therefore here it is appearing black color. Pupillary shadow is usually black color, it's normal. Also you can note the eyelids. Just behind this eyelid there is one translucent structure that is called conjunctiva. Behind the eyelid, in front of the eyeball, it is called conjunctiva. Okay, so the eyeball, the layers of the eyeball, functions of each of these layers, and why it is present, all this will cover in this video. Okay, the outermost covering of the eyeball is called the sclera and the cornea. So which portion is the sclera? The posterior 5/6 of the eyeball is called the sclera. This black color line what we have written now, it is called the sclera. The outermost covering, connective tissue covering of the eyeball is called the sclera. The collagen fibers run haphazardly here so that it becomes white in color. Okay, whereas the anterior 1/6, the same collagen fibers run parallel to one another. When they run parallel to one another, it becomes transparent. This hourglass like appearance is called as cornea. So what is sclera and cornea? The outermost connective tissue covering of the eyeball. In the posterior 5/6 it is called the sclera. In the anterior 1/6 it is called the cornea. So the tough outermost covering that protects the entire eyeball, and there is a meshwork called trabecular meshwork at this junction, the junction between the sclera and cornea, this area, trabecular meshwork, which drains a liquid called aqueous humor. Okay, then cornea is the outermost covering of the eyeball. It's a transparent structure which is in front of the iris, in front of this pupil and anterior chamber. It allows the light to travel through it. Okay, next layer is vascular covering of the eyeball. The middle covering of the eyeball is called the vascular covering of the eyeball. In the posterior 5/6 it is called as a choroid. Can you see this curly rounded line? That one. That is called the choroid of the eyeball. In the anterior 1/6 it is projected into one circular body. It's called the ciliary body, circularly arranged like a tire or a tube. On cut section it appears like this. It's called the ciliary body. This ciliary body, a triangular structure, will have like this, a string like structure, connective tissue string like structure called as suspensory ligament of the lens, also called the zonules. In front of the ciliary body there is one beautiful pigmented layer. It will be like a circular disc with one opening in the center. That one is called as a opening is the pupil, and this circular disc is nothing but iris diaphragm. It will be pigmented epithelium will be there in that. Based on the race of the individual, it can be brown color, black color, okay, gray color. You can see that yourself. This is the iris. I have written one more diagram here for you. So this appears like one line here on 3 dimension. It is like a curtain, circular curtain with one aperture in the center. That's called the iris. The aperture in the center is called as a pupil. So got this. So the vascular layer of the eyeball, posterior 5/6 it is called the choroid, anterior 1/6 it is called the ciliary body, and the iris diaphragm. The aperture present within the iris is called as pupil. Now within the ciliary body there is one interesting muscle. It's called the ciliaris muscle. Okay, the contraction of the ciliaris muscle will pull these strings and make the lens become more swollen up to increase the refractive index of the lens. Now within the iris there are two types of muscle. One circularly arranged muscle like this, it's called constrictor pupillae, Another one arranged like the spokes of a wheel. Contraction of this dilates the pupil. So the name of the muscle is called dilator pupillae. So what is the muscles in iris? Constrictor pupillae and dilator pupillae. Constrictor pupillae is controlled by parasympathetic nervous system, ciliary ganglia. Dilator pupillae is controlled by sympathetic nervous system, okay, superior cervical sympathetic ganglia. So sympathetic nervous system is a nerve of emergency or anger, fear, and fright or flight. So whenever you're having conversation with someone, if their pupil is dilating, that means they're getting angry against your conversation. So avoid conversation with them. Just by observing their pupil, you can note whether they're liking your conversation or not. Interesting aspect I told you. So this is about the vascular layer of the eyeball. The layer of the eyeball, which is just deep to the retina or behind the retina, contains the blood vessel that nourishes the retina, is called the choroid. Ciliary body is that part which is by the side of the lens, which anchors onto the lens by suspensory ligament of the lens, and also the capillaries present in the ciliary body and the ciliary epithelium will cause aqueous humor production, which is helping in maintaining the lubrication of the areas of the eyeball and also the intraocular pressure. You can see one of my video on the aqueous humor production, circulation, and drainage. Next, iris. Just now I told you it's a curtain present in front of a lens and it has got pigmented epithelium in it and an aperture called pupil, which will regulate the amount of light entering the eyeball. So pupil is an adjustable opening at the center of the iris, circular in shape. In cats and all, it is a slit shape. Okay, so it appears scary. Now coming to the lens, we have a circular disc-like lens. Actually, it is a on cut section. We can clearly see it is a biconvex disc. Okay, we have a biconvex crystalline lens. So where it is present at the junction between posterior 5/6 of the eyeball and anterior 1/6 of the eyeball, it is held in place by this body called ciliary body. Ciliary body doesn't directly attach to the lens. You can see some strings. What are they called as? I told you just now. Suspensory ligament of the lens, also called zonules of the lens. So this lens, the central portion of the lens is called the nucleus. The peripheral portion of the lens is called the cortex. And a gift wrapper, a connective tissue wrapper, will be encircling the lens. It's called the capsule. What is present in front is called anterior capsule. What will be present behind the lens is called posterior capsule. So this lens has got a refractive index, which will, it's biconvex lens. It will converge the ray of lights onto this retina. Okay. So if it is not able to converge, if the rays of light is falling here, I mean it's converging the image here, then the person is called myopia. If it is not able to converge at all whatsoever, if it is converging here, then it is called as hypermetropia. Details of this in another video I'll put it up. Okay, so the refractive index of not only lens, of the cornea, of the aqueous humor, everything matters to make the image ultimately fall on the retina, the photoreceptors on the retina. So this is about the lens. Lens is a transparent crystalline structure made up of bundle of collagen fibers. There are epithelium in front of it and behind it, anterior epithelium, posterior epithelium. Posterior epithelium are elongated to form the collagen fibers arranged parallel to one another. So this is about the lens, transparent structure just behind the iris, helps in focusing the light on the retina, and that part of the retina is called macula, where it's a more central portion of the retina. A very sharp and clear image is formed. This portion will be called as macula of the eyeball. So coming to the last but not the least, retinal layer. So what is this retinal layer? The innermost nervous covering of the eyeball is called as a retina. So the outermost covering was the sclera. The middle vascular covering was the choroid. The innermost nervous covering is called the retina. This retina is made up of 10 layers, out of which you have to remember the following 4 layers is good enough for you. That is, number 1, the retinal pigment epithelium. It is a cuboidal epithelium with microvilli. It has got a rich amount of pigment cells. Whenever rays of light enter here, extra amount of light should not get scattered here, so that we'll get overexposure image in our brain. Whenever you have taken selfie or any photo with more light on the background, you can't make out yourself or the image clearly because of overexposure of the light. So that is prevented by retinal pigment epithelium. Next layer is layer of rods and cones. So rods and cones, if the cylindrical portion of projection is there, it's a photoreceptor. Rods is a photoreceptor that is helping in night vision, okay, or a scotopic vision. Cones are conical structures. Conical structures, they help in bright vision or photopic vision. Both of these rods and cones are the receptor for vision. They are just called as photoreceptors. They are present in retina. Then bipolar neurons, which carry the information from photoreceptor towards the ganglion cell layer of the retina. Then ganglion cell layer of the retina, the axons of this goes behind as the optic nerve. Optic nerve carries the information towards the visual cortex, which is the occipital lobe of the brain. Area number 17, primary visual area, which helps in receiving the visual input, just seeing the image, but what is that image is assessed by secondary visual area number 18 and 19. Your parents, your siblings image and all are stored over there. So just by seeing them you will recognize them very easily because of secondary visual cortex. Okay, that is about the retina. Interestingly, the retina is present only in the posterior 5/6. Anteriorly, just behind this lens, it ends by a serrated margin. It is called ora serrata. It doesn't extend anteriorly. It is not complete. So why do you think? Just think for a minute. Retina is not present in the anterior 1/6. Why? So this retina, if it extends into the anterior 1/6, just imagine the retina is extending till here. Do you think light can enter the eyeball? No, right? So therefore, nature provides retina only in posterior 5/6, like a cup-like structure. If it extends into the anterior 1/6, then it will become like a coconut-like structure. Can light enter the inside of the coconut? No, right? That's why. That's why nature has provided retina only in the posterior 5/6 of the eyeball. So retina is a light-sensitive layer of nervous layer of the eyeball. It lines the back of the eye, that is posterior 5/6 of the eye. Retinal pigment epithelium, the function of this, the layer of cells, cuboidal cells with microvilli-like projection that protects the retina and nourishes the retina. It removes the waste products from retina. We don't want any waste products over there. Prevents the new blood vessel from growing into the retina and absorbs the extra amount of light which is not gathered by photoreceptor. That is, just now I told you, to prevent the overexposure of the image. This prevents the scattering of the light and enhances the clarity of vision. That is also the function of retinal pigment epithelium. Next, fovea. Fovea is a pit in the macula, is the brightest area for visual acuity. In that one area is there fovea, in which only rich amount of cones will be there for a better clarity of vision. Precise clarity. You can tell how many ever megapixel you want. 10,000 megapixel camera we have, retina. The fovea is the brightest area in which rich amount of cones will be present. So what is the receptors for vision? Just now I discussed with you. The receptor for vision is photoreceptors. They are rods and cones. Rods are for night vision or scotopic vision. Cones are for bright vision or photopic vision. Where are they present? They are present in the retina. So rods and cones, the light sensitive nerve cells are called rods and cones. They are located in the retina. They are the photoreceptors. Rods are the photoreceptors which are sensitive in low light or the, I just now told you, night vision. Cones are the photoreceptor, more rich in macula and the fovea. So they are also helping in, cones are also helping in color vision, C for C. Okay, rods are helping in black and white vision. If you can make the R like this, it will become B, black and white vision. Cones are for color vision. Okay, clarity will be there. So later, when the photoreceptors carries the information, it is handed over to the bipolar neuron. Bipolar neuron gives the information to ganglion cell layer. From the ganglion cell layer, the myelinated axons goes behind. Okay, these axons extend up to the brain. They are called as optic nerve by a pathway called visual pathway. They carry the sensory information, the visual messages towards the brain, visual cortex. Area number 17, 18 and 19 around the calcarine sulcus. For visual pathway, I will do one more video. Kindly see that video for the visual pathway and various type of visual losses. Okay. The liquid within the eyeball in front of the lens The liquid is called aqueous humor. Behind the lens, the liquid is called as vitreous humor. So this aqueous humor is a water liquid. It's produced by ciliary body, comes between the iris and lens, passes through the pupil, goes between the cornea and iris, and in this area, canal of Schlemm drains into the sclera and episcleral vein. Okay, that is about the aqueous humor. You can see one more video on the aqueous humor. So it's an ultrafiltered plasma drained by the into the veins. So from where it came, from blood vessel, where it went into the blood vessel, it nourished the lens, iris, and the cornea, because these are avascular structures except the iris. The lens and the cornea are avascular. No blood vessel was there. So, but someone has to provide food. So aqueous humor is providing the food. The vitreous humor is a jelly-like substance which is present behind the lens, but within this retina. So this jelly-like substance made up of glycosaminoglycan, hyaluronic acid and all. So they will give a shape to the eyeball. Imagine there is a puncture, bullet puncture or some puncture to the eyeball. If this vitreous leaks, it pulls the retina and choroid from the surface. So painful visual loss will be there. Also, during severe hypertension and diabetes, this retina is going to split. The retinal pigment epithelium and the remaining nervous layer of retina can get split from one another. That's called retinal detachment, whereas actually its meaning is retinal splitting. That is because vitreous humor is anchored onto the inner surface of retina. So when it is vitreous humor is leaking out, it won't leak out alone. It will drag the retina along with it. So therefore vitreous humor becomes important. It's a jelly-like material which maintains the shape of the eyeball. Same thing applies for aqueous humor. If there is a puncture in the cornea or anything, sudden leak of the aqueous will cause the lens to get detached from the suspensory ligament or herniate from that area. It's called subluxation of the lens. Hopefully you understood this aqueous and vitreous humor and their functions. So aqueous humor is a liquid, 99.9% liquid present in front of the lens. It maintains the intraocular pressure, the shape of the cornea, nourishes the lens and the cornea. Vitreous humor is a jelly-like substance which is behind the lens in the posterior 5/6 of the eyeball. It gives shape to the eyeball. It is anchored to the inner surface of the retina. It is vitreous humor. Clear jelly-like substance that fills the eye, and it is behind the lens, on the back of the eye, posterior 5/6 of the eye. The region between the lens, that is in front of the lens but behind the cornea, is aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is a clear fluid. So any rise in the intraocular pressure is called as glaucoma. It will have effect on the retina. Okay. So pressure raises, it will have traction over here. Traction means pull. So there will be damage to this retina and the optic disc, or the optic nerve damage can be there. Last but not the least, I will tell you one bonus point here. Kindly concentrate. It's very simplest summary in the world. Okay. The outermost connective tissue covering of the eyeball. In the posterior 5/6, it is called the sclera. Posterior 5/6, it's called the sclera. The anterior 1/6, it is called the cornea. So what is this? Outermost connective tissue covering of the eyeball. Posterior 5/6, it's called the sclera. Anterior 1/6, it's called the cornea. Next, the middle vascular covering of the eyeball. Posterior 5/6, it's called the choroid. Anterior 1/6, it's called the ciliary body and the iris. Vascular covering of the eyeball. Posterior 5/6 called the choroid. Anterior 1/6 ciliary body and iris. Ciliary body anchors the lens by suspensory ligament of the lens. The iris has got an aperture called a pupil. It can constrict, it can dilate. There are two muscles within the iris, constrictor pupillae and dilator pupillae. Constrictor pupillae is supplied by parasympathetic nervous system. It will constrict the pupil, helping in sleep. Dilator pupillae, spokes of a wheel-like muscle. It helps in dilatation of pupil during anger, during sympathetic activity, sympathetic overactivity, fear, fright, flight and all. The innermost covering of the eyeball, this yellow color structure, can you see? That is called nervous covering of the eyeball. It's called the retina. The anterior 1/6 it is not there because if it is there, light cannot enter the eyeball. Image cannot fall on the retina. The refractive index of the cornea, aqueous humor, the lens, vitreous humor contributes the rays of light to fall on the retina. All the refractive index should be appropriate. If at all, if there is any problem in any one of the refractive index, especially the lens, if the image falls in front of the retina, the condition is called myopia. If the convergence of light takes place and the image falls behind the retina, somewhere down the optic nerve, person cannot see clearly. It's called hypermetropia. So if the image falls on the retina, it's normal. It's called emetropia. If it falls in front of the retina, it's called myopia. If it falls behind the retina, it's called hypermetropia. So that is the importance of retina. And the retina, there are 10 layers of retina. The first layer is retinal pigment epithelium. It is present on the deeper aspect or the posterior aspect. The 10th layer is the optic nerve fiber layer from the ganglion cell, that is innermost layer it will be there. So what happens, the rays of light first has to fall on the first layer, which is deepest part. Then the information comes from photoreceptor, rods and cones of the thing, bipolar neuron, ganglion cell, optic nerve fiber. Then it has to go back again. So the human retina is an inverted retina. It has to first fall on the retinal pigment epithelium, which is the deepest layer. Extra amount of light will be absorbed by retinal pigment epithelium, and whatever is required, that one only will be thrown to the rods and cones. Otherwise, what will happen, if the rods and cones only are in the beginning here, then they are exposed to the bright light, and there may be damage to the rods and cones, and everyone will become blind, something like that. Okay, so the human retina, that is a bonus point for you to watching the video till the end. Human retina is an inverted retina, meaning the first layer is not here, it is over here, and the 10th layer will be on the inner aspect, and then it goes optic nerve fiber. Like and share this video with your family and friends. Don't forget to press the thumbs up button. Subscribe to my channel if you have not yet done. It's a request, and kindly press the bell button to get the latest notification of the videos which I upload. Thank you once again.